you'll have to see tomorrow.
I'd like to call the Destin Fire Control District Board of Fire Commissioners to order. We're at 848 Airport Road here in Destin, Florida. Date is June 9th, 2020 at 5:30 p.m. This meeting is open to the public. Pursuant to the provisions of Section 286.011 Florida statutes and the Governor DeSantis' executive orders 20-51 and 20-52, in which the governor declared a public health emergency and a state emergency, there is a recommendation to limit public gatherings. Due to limited seating capacity, this meeting is being aired on our YouTube live channel at Destin Fire Rescue YouTube for the public to view or to listen to. And note for the record, Commissioners Buckingham and Wilson are absent and are considered excused. So at this time, we'd like to go into employee recognitions. Chief?
Yes, sir, I don't have any tonight, and due to the current status of COVID-19, we're not asking any employees to come in, but just as soon as we can, and the situation allows, there'll be several that we haven't been able to come before the board,
Right.
be recognized, that we'd like to bring before them. So for right now, no, sir, we have none.
Okay. And at this time, we'd like to open the floor up to public comments. And did we have any emails come in?
No, sir.
Checking out documents.
No one's coming.
Okay. Seeing no one here from the public to render any comments, the floor is now closed. Review of the minutes, the regular meeting, May 12th, 2020.
Need a motion to approve the minutes of May 12, 20.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion, deletions? Call for the vote, all in favor? Unanimous. Review of the financial report, May 31st, 2020. Catherine?
The financial statements present well. We have not needed to draw on our cash yet within the Florida Local Government Investment Trust. Accounts receivable are extremely high. However, 95% of them are attributed to the county for beach services. And they did have a meeting last week in which they were supposed to present the invoices to the county. So we expect that liability to go down within the next few weeks. Excuse me, that receivable. Liabilities and equity are in line with the month's activities. Ad valorem taxes are now down to 2%. We've received another $75,000 this week. So we're at the very end of our collection for ad valorem taxes. And we had another outstanding month for investment in unrealized gain for the bond fund of $28,000 for a single month. We do not expect that to continue, of course. As far as expenditures goes, there was only one category a little higher, which is repair and maintenance for vehicle. We had large repairs to one of the ladder trucks. Other than that, financial statements are in line with the projected budget. If there's any questions, I can address those.
Need a motion to approve financial report of May 31st, 2020.
Second.
Okay, get a motion to approve in a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, call for a vote, all in favor? Unanimous. Old business, Weston District Station, Chief.
Yes, sir, as most of the commission might be aware, the city council has had their first reading and has approved the ordinance that comes from our lease agreement. They approved it 7-0 at their last meeting last week, and the second reading will be this coming Monday night. As soon as that's done, we'll start moving forward with architects and builders, and hopefully it'll take off and start moving fairly quickly. But it's very important that we get through the second meeting next Monday night. If that were not to occur, then we would not be able to move forward.
Well, it's good that we're getting the support from City Council.
Yes,
unanimously.
from all seven. They all supported us and spoke favorably when they did speak about the station and being down there and our working together to try to accomplish this kind of goal. It worked well. I think it went well.
Thanks for your help on that too. Mike,
Yes, sir.
any questions? Property adjustment to 117 Crystal Beach Drive.
Yes, sir. Situation hasn't changed.
Jason, I'm sorry.
Yes, sir. Situation hasn't changed with the piece of property. She's still working on getting the title corrected so that it can be sold, and with, the Matty Kelly Trust. So she's still working with them, trying to get everybody, especially those that are named individually, so that she can get the title consolidated as it should be, so that they can sell it to us. But she's still working on it. Really haven't progressed much further than they did last week.
All right, moving into, or any questions? Okay. Moving on to chief reports, beach safety update.
Yes, sir. Unfortunately, Chief D'Agostino isn't here. You'll see that, as most of the board is aware of the rescue that occurred in the past, where lifeguard 9 was the first lifeguard on scene. As you can see in the video, as soon as the boat sank, he arrived, or as he arrived, the boat sank, he was able to pull out several in one pass. I was able to pull 3 and get them ashore, one of those being a child. So I think Joe's highlighting that there. The 2 skis that we had at Crab Island also assisted pulling the last couple from there, but Harbor 9 did the bulk of the work when they initially arrived. So that's, we thought it actually kicked off Memorial Weekend, so that was a heck of a start to that weekend.
That sounds like a good decision, wasn't it?
Absolutely.
On the way around it,
Oh, yes, with the jet
with the
skis, for
sled.
sure.
Yes. Awesome.
You know, yeah, and you'll also see the H-2B visas. The employees were not brought over due to COVID. So we have H-2B employees this year. We do utilize them. We rely on those folks. We work with them a lot. And they are very experienced. So we are missing that group. And Joe has hired 20 new employees to kind of bring on, to hopefully attempt to offset it, but it'll take more than the initial 20. But he has several in the pipeline. I say several groups in the pipeline that he's going to be bringing on to work throughout the rest of the summer. We're doing everything we can to try to hold the junior program. The junior program was scheduled to kick off this week. But we weren't able to do so, even though the governor opens it back up so that camps and alike those things can start back up. The state's kind of held back on us being able to get in the park and hold our program. The parents and the children want to participate in the program. We've had quite a few sign up. The first session is full. The second session has quite a few in it. We're trying to make it happen. The parents are working with us. We keep pushing it off. We had to submit a plan to the state to get it approved so that we can hold it at the park. So we're working through that process. We're doing everything we can. I told Joe that if there's any way possible, we won't hold that because we've held it every consecutive year. And if there's any way we can, we want to be able to do that. So we're working diligently to make that happen. Tom Miller, who runs the program for us, has written the plan and gone through it. So we're doing a lot of work trying to make that happen this year. And then you'll see on the next page is all the statistics. We'll point out some, as you said, with the Crab Island and doing that a little differently with the jet skis. Of note, you'll see that there were 41 people were rescued out of Crab Island, 26 Harbor 9, and this is just through the 4th. And for Crab Island, that's really only 7 total days. So Memorial Weekend was 4 for us. And then we had a 3-day weekend, so that was 7. But you'll see also assist 65. I thought those were big numbers for only being out there for 7 days. I think I covered this report as good as I can.
Good job. Any questions? Training report?
Yes, sir. You'll see that the firefighters got in 23 hours on each shift on a variety of topics from medical. They did some company training, forcible entry, ground ladders, VIN entry search training, which is the VES. They did the Denver drill, which is important for anyone that might have a down firefighter, need to get them out of the building. So anyway, I think it was really good training this month, and you'll see 23 hours when we typically look for 20. So they did a good job.
Any questions? Inspection report?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, you have the report in front of you, a couple things to touch on. Vintage, Destin, 3 of their buildings have finalized and are starting to be occupied, including the clubhouse. A couple other things that are starting to go now, I noticed that, and we've received calls as far as they are starting the Charles, which is right there by Big Kahuna's. It's gonna be a subdivision in there. They've started clearing it. Actually got an incinerator set up and they're burning off everything there with a permit from the Forestry Service. And then the Henderson Beach Resort has started coming out of the ground with their front phase. That's like going up the big buildings and all there. So that's a big project going. And then the True Hilton got their final and stuff. So I look for some construction work to start over there beside Walmart within the next probably couple weeks. And then the Microtel hotel is coming right there behind Longhorns, in front of Kelly Plantation, right in that area and stuff. So I expect that to start going under construction in the next couple weeks and stuff too. So, so everything's starting to pick up and construction is definitely started back. So
That's good. Impact fees.
yes.
Questions? Overtime report.
Yes, sir. You see there was only a total of 3 hours, and you'll see that's divided amongst 3 people. That would have been a call that held them over when their shift was going off.
That's good. Chief.
So that's really, I think that's a
That's
great report.
fantastic. Any questions? All right. New business, amendment to number 1 to interlocal agreement with Oklahoma County.
Yes, sir. After our last meeting, and we were talking about getting the jet ski purchased and using it out of Crab Island, which we've already kind of discussed the benefits thereof, and it's already paid for itself in my mind. The board was prepared to purchase it themselves, but felt very strongly that TBD should be paying for it. I had conversations with the TDD as well as the assistant county administrator about the benefits of this ski prior to Memorial Weekend. They worked on it and bought it before, and you have the agreement in front of you. They're going to pay for that jet ski.
Good job.
And that's where the agreement's at. So
Good job.
I was pleased that they were willing to work with us and make that purchase. I was kind of concerned that they were.
It's a good partnership.
Yes, sir, it is.
I like it. Good, so we need a motion.
Yes, sir.
So I'll entertain a motion. Good.
Second.
Got a motion to approve and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, call for vote, all in favor? Yes. All right, Fireboat Committee report.
Yes, I can let Commissioner Green speak to it. But I'll give a quick summary if I can. The county chiefs and Commissioner Green got together to discuss all the information that we had at the time, which was last week, to kind of go over it. We have received finally received what the repurchase price for the boat would be, buying it back from the insurance company, which we thought was, I was surprised at the price they came back. They came back at 10 grand to purchase the boat back. I was anticipating, personally, I was anticipating around 35. They came back at 10. The committee felt and Commissioner Green felt that that was definitely the way to go, is repurchase the boat, and have the work, have the boat repaired or refurbed. With that, we've gotten a quote from Legendary. There's some questions in reference to the quote that we're a little concerned with, that we're gonna try to get clarification on, when they say they're only gonna replace part of the wiring or some of the wiring. It's felt that all the wiring needs to be replaced as the boat was upside down. It took on as much work as it did. Anyway, so they're working on getting those questions answered. We have reached out to Safeboat to find out if this quote is the quote that they're going to give us, or to have them re-quote repairing the boat. What they gave the insurance company was a refurb breakdown in cost, which then the insurance company decided to total the boat. We want to discuss with them the particulars of what they gave them and get a quote individually for us as to what it would take to repair it. We know the shipping cost there is around 7,500 is what they estimated, 75, so that's there and back would be around 15 grand. We know we have to figure that into the price and see it. So we're still gathering that information from those. Once we get that information, the committee will meet again and then make a decision on how they want to progress. We'd like to keep it local, I think it's the general sense. However, there are some concerns there with some of the things that we kind of got back from the Legendary's quote. And it might be worth it to send it to Seattle. Seems how we kind of stabilized the rescue aspect to some degree. Maybe we could, but the committee, I think, is still in discussion, waiting for some more information. Commissioner Green.
Yeah, it's, what, the quote from the insurance company was 190,
Yes, sir.
so 190,000
Yeah.
is what they're paying for the boat. And we give them 10, they get 10 back to the,
Right.
so it's 180 is what we net out of it. And so we can refurb the boat for that. We can totally
Absolutely.
rebuild it, whether we go here or there. My concern is, and our committee's concern was, we want to do it in the quickest time possible.
Right.
We're looking at, to go to Safeboat, say a week up there and a week back, and then 3 weeks there, so you're looking at 5 to 6 weeks, maybe 8 weeks before we have the boat back, and that'd be basically the whole summer. That's why we're looking closer by, maybe to get it referred here and get it back active as soon as we can. There has been some, I don't know, is this something you were gonna bring up tonight, Chief, about the
If you would like to, I can sure discuss it for sure.
the port security
Port security, yes, sir.
grant?
Yes, sir.
We're looking at pursuing that. Are y'all familiar with
We're not
that?
familiar with it.
Well, it's basically Pensacola and Mobile.
Pensacola, yes, sir. It's Pensacola through Panama City, but it's and Mobile. So,
Yeah.
but it's generally.
Well, go ahead and give them a rundown.
Yes, sir. We're going to attempt to obtain a port security grant. There are 2 ports in the Panhandle that are a part of this region and that have a committee that discuss the ports and security and all the other issues, whether it's fire rescue, whether it's security in general, where they have that. But because we're in this region, we'd be eligible to apply for port security grant. Pensacola has applied for, several and received those. Panama City, the same, have applied and received them. They both have had fire boats bought through the port security grants program. Our general thought is that we would get our boat repaired. Go ahead and we need to get this done. And we apply for a port security grant. If we receive it, it'll be 10% to zero. It's going to be some smaller portion that we might be on the tab for, but as compared to buying a new boat at the $375,000, $400,000 price tag, if we were able to do it through the port security grant, then it might be $40,000 for the district to have a boat, a primary boat, and then the current boat would then become a secondary. I considered that and brought it up to Commissioner Green as well as the committee, because I felt that if we were to have a second boat, if we could take our current boat, make it a backup, and then be able to purchase a primary boat utilizing the port security grant at almost no cost to us, that would be the way to go. Because our boat is 16 years old. And even though we might have it fixed, it's still a 16-year-old hull. We can change the collars out, we can do different things, but the hull is what it is. So maybe if we're able to do that, that would be, and this way I would look at as compared to, and we discussed it before, that if we were to purchase a second boat, that cost, and that'd be pretty high, which is one of the reasons that I've never brought it before this committee, the commission before, is that it is so expensive, and I felt that we could spend those dollars doing other things, seeing as how we have a primary boat. But it is gaining age, and even though we have it repaired, it's still a 16-year-old boat, and it's only going to continue to get older. So I'd like to pursue that. The grant is going to come open much later. It's not now. It just closed in April. If we looked at this, depending on what happens with the city, with the station, and as that progresses, I'd anticipate that as we start to move forward with that, the potential new station, that we might be able to get the answer for a port security grant, being able to get a boat. Because there are some concerns that have been expressed to me about moving our boat from its current location by different members of the public. And however I understand it, the only way to leave it where it currently is if we have a boat, fire boat. And maybe at that time, we can find out the answer to whether or not we're awarded a port security grant. If that's the case, then maybe if we move it for a short period of time until the other boat is received, and then the current boat goes back where it was, and then the new boat can go behind the station.
Well, this falls in good with the West End Station.
Yes.
Is that it's something that not, the grant would not be real quick. It would be a 6 to 9 month, maybe a year before that would take effect. So,
And then you gotta get a boat built.
yeah, well, and it's still getting to that point, and if we can get a grant for it and not cost the taxpayers
That's right.
Why not?
Yeah, exactly.
nothing for it, I mean, it'd be the way to go, I think.
Well, I
We're gonna
think
pursue that.
we thought it was the best option, is that if there's the ability to receive a grant, then we need to pursue that as compared to buying any other boat, whether it's a fire boat or anything else. If we can get one through a port security grant and it not cost our taxpayers or keep their cost to a very minimal, then that would be the way to go. So we're going to attempt to do that. Back in 2004, when we got our boat, there was no thought of a port security grant. I don't even know if it was being issued back then.
But if you look at it, well, we don't have just one fire engine. We don't have just one, we have a backup for everything. And with this accident that happened here back a couple months ago, it
Shine the light on it.
reinforces the idea that we need a backup. And that's what the current boat could become, as a backup to the primary boat.
Question, when we do this rehab, I think the board's leaning that way, from my consensus, but are you looking at doing some other stuff to it, like thrusters for the pump and stuff at the same time?
And we haven't discussed that. We've looked at, they've given us some quotes on changing the motor out on the pump and stuff, but right now, I don't know if there's any way we can do it. Now, that's something that
The committee would need to
ask
set
more
up.
questions. But
To expedite time though, for next meeting, this is gonna be done, when it's done right away. Can we do like a, some kind of motion to give the committee authorization to pick the best option, either Legendary or the other place, and then
I think still gotta come to us. That kind of money.
I don't know,
I would think it still need to come to us.
DC, can the committee do that? If we okay them to go ahead and make a contract with one of the companies, they put bids in, and give them the authorization, or do we have to come back in front of the board? Or
Probably didn't come back.
I would think so.
Well, we can call it,
special meeting?
so.
And we call it
Yeah,
special
that's a
meeting.
special meeting.
We can call it
And
a
then,
special
then
meeting.
there's the consideration of an RFP and.
In order to get
whether
it
or not
done
we're
with
gonna have to do
expedience,
that.
we get it back, and we get the boat back in the water.
Right, that's, DC and I can have further conversations, after the meeting, whether or not, because the boat's out, I mean, for fire capability on the water, we're done. So, whether or not we're able to work that under the emergency auspices standards or not, or whether we have to go out for an RFP, I need to have that conversation and find out how it's gonna work. But either way, I think it needs to come back before this board to make that decision on a direction. So, we're gonna get, and as Commissioner Green said, if we're able to get everything wrapped up before our meeting in July, then I can get with the chairman and we can call a special meeting and get the direction of the board when we're ready to pull the trigger and say, this is the recommendation of the committee, is to move forward in this particular direction. And then we'll have an answer on whether or not we can do that through the emergency procedures, legislation, or laws that allow us to do that, because we don't have it. It's done. We need to get back, as we talk, as soon as possible.
We want it back as soon as possible, so if we can expedite that either way, any way we can, I'd see that.
Well, the way I can see it around is we had the boat was already purchased. And that's just, we're just
Well, we
Similar-
got,
we're just deciding which direction to go with it.
we got a
Replace it.
preliminary quote out of
We're not spending any more
Legendary
money.
this past Saturday. And
Just
that's why
got,
there's some questions need to be raised about some of the issues in the quote, such as wiring and stuff. So, I want to give the Titan Chief Taylor time to work through that and come back with some more answers.
Do we need a motion to buy the boat back, or is that something we need to do?
I would make us feel all uncomfortable if you said, yeah, pursue the refurbing of the boat, and whoever it is, just pursue that and purchase the boat back, so we can go ahead and get that boat and that done and get the check coming, because they need something from us that says that we're going to buy the boat back, and then they're going to cut the check, $10,000 less than what, the insurance is. So that's how they're gonna get the payment without us.
So
So
I
I
make
make,
a motion, we accept the insurance company's offer and to rebuy, the hull
For $10,000?
for $10,000.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Yeah, that'll make us feel a little more comfortable. Still need to vote?
You vote?
any other discussion? All in favor? Unanimous. Okay, moving on
So,
to,
in reference to your question on, do some of those things, we're gonna get some quotes. So, right now, the boat doesn't currently have power steering, I think, it's something we talked about, so I know
Some updates.
Medallion Chief Taylor's working on a few of those prices, so that while it's out, and we can do that, and the board's okay with that, whatever that cost might be, whether it's, updating it, whatever the cost is, we wanna make sure the board. So, there are some things that we feel need to be done, and we're gonna get some quotes on it.
How much leeway do you have for spending? Like 35, 40,000, 50, 100, 10,000? So is anything, I'd like to make a motion, anything under $10,000, and the chief wants to add stuff to update the boat, to go ahead and do it. Or anything over 10,000, how about 25,000? Would that cover the cost if you so fit, the committee?
I'm not sure with the power steering, I thought I had seen something, I'd have to look at it.
I think we need to really look at a quote, get a quote.
Yeah, total. Because one might say 25, one might say 20, and it's only $5,000 difference, but their overall remodel price, we might want to go in a different direction. So, or one that might be lower on, let's say, putting in a power steering, where it doesn't have it now, but their overall quote was significantly more.
Mhm.
So, It's not offsetting where it would work.
That's where we get stuff done while it's out of commission. We get stuff done now, so we'll take it out again in the fall. Take it out.
I do agree with that, because if we're gonna have something done, I would say, I agree with that, is that while it's out, if there's any updating that we would like to do, like the power steering, or bow thrusters, or joystick, Commissioner Green knows, where you there's a joystick feature that you can kind of hold certain motors in position, makes it a lot easier to be able to control the bow of the boat when the fire pump's running. Anyway, we're looking at all that, and we're getting quotes on being able to fix that. And now will be the time to do it, because I agree, if we get it fixed and we get it back, and then we're gonna take it out in December of next year to, again, for another 30 days from them, or longer, or whatever it takes to get fixed.
You're in the board time, we do experience on both. I trust your judgment, so.
If you want to put it in form of a motion, we'll vote on it to give the chief that latitude to be able to make these calls on, whether, to go to power stand or whatever upgrades we need to do on the back. So you get.
With a recommendation from you?
Yeah.
To him,
Yeah.
and the committee?
The committee, yeah.
Absolutely. I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, take a vote. Unanimous.
And if we have to end up going to RFP, if we have to pursue the RFP, then we'll make sure that that's included in our RFP, any of these upgrades that we're talking about. I say upgrades, power stands is considered an upgrade.
Time is essential.
I agree. All right, moving on to a budget workshop for 2020 and 2021 fiscal year.
Yes, sir, so I can turn this part over to Ms. Catherine. Her and I have worked on the budget. We got the framework of a budget for the commission to be able to work from as we go forward. But I'll let her kind of express some of the details.
Ms. Captain.
So the budget before you is all funds of $9.5 million, and this is a 6.2% decrease from our current year budget. Some of the highlights of this budget is there is ad valorem tax revenue increase of approximately 5.5%. Personnel services account for the majority of the district's budget. The proposed budget would be approximately 82%. I do think that it is important to note that this is so large because the district does not carry any debt. We are proposing in the budget to maintain our current staffing level. There are no projected increases in staff in the 2021 fiscal year. Currently, approximately 79% of the district's total full-time positions are positions that are covered by the union and by a collective bargaining agreement. So across the entire personnel section, wages and benefits, pension contributions have been adjusted based off of the current collective bargaining agreement. As far as the pension goes, the district is required to fund the pension on what's called a dollar cost method. This is where the actuarial from the pension fund runs his numbers and determines a fixed dollar amount for the district to contribute. The district has actually decided, and we did the same thing this current year, not to use the dollar funding method. We prefer to use the percentage method to fund the account. And the primary reason for this is the dollar funding method does not take into account changes in your current year. So if you have salary increases, if you have increases or decreases in personnel, your funding method doesn't take that into account. By using the percentage method, it does. So you're staying more current with what you should be putting into the fund. Also, this helps us if everything stays the same and that dollar method is a more precise, accurate, which at this time we know it's not because the CBA had substantial pay increases. But let's just assume that the dollar funding method would stay the same. Ultimately, the district is funding more into the pension fund, which helps lower the funding ratio, which we know is an objective of the commission to get that unfunded liability paid down. So that's the approach that we're taking to fund the pension. So if the dollar cost method were to stay where it is, we would be putting in approximately $290,000 above the minimum contribution that they say we need to make. As far as non-personnel services, it's about 1.4 million or 7% of our budget. These things include contractual services, utilities, insurance, general liability insurance, office supplies. There's really not any large adjustments to those categories. Capital outlays are projected to be 1.5 million, which is again about 7% of the budget. The largest of that is 1.2 million for the station and the furnishing of the station. And then the rest of that is really going to kind of fall across the board. Station 9 and Station 10 building improvements, firefighting equipment. The firefighting equipment is SCBA masks. We are at the point to where we need to replace our SCBAs, our breathing apparatuses. Beach safety has been budgeted. We've worked with Beach Safety Division Chief D'Agostino. The Tourist Development Council has told us that they are going to keep our funding level the same to where it currently is. So we have worked through his staffing and what he needs to pay them and how many chairs he's gonna fill to come up with a break-even budget for beach safety. The junior lifeguard program, we hope by next year the program will be back to its normal operation. There are, based off of, since the time that this budget was prepared and now, there have been some salary adjustments. So there will be some minor adjustments to this program, which will include an increase to the cost of the program for participants for the 2021. So it's really summer of 2021. So I do see that change coming, which will be presented at the next budget workshop. And then the final thing would be the discussion that the commission and Chief Sasser just had in regards to applying for a port grant. I'm going to have to take a look at the timeline for that. The grant closes in April. I need to kind of get an estimate of when the grant would be awarded. If it's a 90% grant, we need to pick up 90% revenue and we need to pick up 100% cost and add that into the budget. But, you know, again, the net effect is we're looking to find $10,000, which we can certainly do for a grant award that size. So that will need to be added in, but it'll only be added in if the timing falls right, because that could be a 2021 or a 21-22 budget expenditure. So we'll take a look at that and make the adjustment if necessary. So the proposed budget is proposing that the millage rate stay the same at 1.000. So I do ask that the board direct us to proceed with that so we can begin our trim process. If there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer those.
Do we have a vehicle for that new station in this budget?
We do not, and that is due to the timing of the
Probably
build.
next year. 'Cause
That would be,
it'll
again, a 2021 expenditure, yes.
And that will be out of impact, correct?
Depends on the cost of the new
building,
station.
yeah.
So we currently have 1.3.
1.4 basically.
Okay. So it depends on the cost of the station. So as we move through that process, if it's over that or even close, then those impact fees might not be there for us.
And the impact fees,
After all this building.
We'll
came
have
on,
some more coming in,
I
for
think
sure.
we should.
For sure. Our intent would be, as is an addition to the fleet and not a replacement.
Right.
And it's due to an expansion of our services, then the ability to utilize those, I think is a question, for sure. It's just a matter of whether they're going to be there or not. And even let's just say they were not, if we were to have to then take a loan, worst case scenario, had to take a loan to purchase the apparatus, then what I would believe that we could utilize impact fees come in each year to make that payment, because it's paying for something that was an expansion of services. So yes, the intent would be to pay for it out of impact fees.
To make sure everybody knows that the station can be paid for entirely by impact fees. It's not going to cost the taxpayers whatsoever.
Right. All right, do we have a motion to set the proposed operating millage rate at 1.0 for the budget workshops?
So move.
All right. Say it.
Yep, second.
Any further discussion? Right. All right, call for a vote. All in favor? Unanimous. Okay, our next regular meeting will, with the second budget workshop, will be July 14th, 2020 at 5:30 PM here at this station. Right? All right. Anything further on the board? Nothing? Seeing none, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.